Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Shuffle Bus. I'm Jesse, back here with a brand new video commentary from Ashcon 2021. My first matchup of the event was with MBauers, who is one of the top three players for sure in Ashes. Super excited to get an opportunity to play Matt, and we're going to get this thing started. It is a pre recorded video, so I'm coming at you post match here with commentary and thoughts on how I was working through this particular matchup and what I'm hoping to accomplish with my decisions and lines of play, and thinking about the things that Matt will be potentially sending back at me. So to start off, Matt is playing Saria, and he has 4 Charm, 4 Divine, and 2 Sympathy. This looks very similar to Matt's Shuffle Bus Season 3 Saria list, just on the surface. We have 7 Conjurations, so I have a pretty good feeling that we're on Raven and maybe Raptor Herder, and that would take us to 4, and then there'd be 3 remaining, so it's a little bit hard to determine exactly, but I'm guessing Lightbringer is one of these here as well. I am running my Shuffle Bus Season 3 Odette list revised. In this particular case, I have added some Blood Chains and removed the Shining Hydras and a few other things like Massive Growth to make room for other cards, and included 3 copies of Golden Veil to help protect my Knight investment from hard removal. So when I look at Matt's list, I don't see hard removal as a issue out of the gate here. We're not looking at Natural Pain Fester or anything like that. We are looking at potentially Meteors. And a good way to counter Meteor is to play Root Armor. So I do start a Fester just in case Matt is on Essence Druid as an open here. I want to be able to get rid of that Essence Druid efficiently and effectively, and Fester allows me to do that. I start the Frostback Bear, and I also start the Gilder. The Gilder can let me turn on the Fester play. Of course, Odette herself has entered the fray, and we still have 3 Sword of Virtues in our list, so always got lots of opportunities here. But if Matt goes mill on me, which is what I think this deck is trying to do, I need the Frostback Bear to be able to go up and around, and I need to be able to remove the blockers that would keep the bear from doing that. So let's get this game started, and we'll start the commentary from there. There was a ton of spectators in this match. You know, I was kind of surprised. It was a late night game, and wasn't really expecting to see a bunch of people jump on, but they did. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I love spectators. I don't mind that at all. Obviously, playing Matt is a huge challenge here. So, I think Matt's still selecting his first 5. I mean, one of the things that was concerning for me was, and looks like from the dice roll, I roll more basic, so I get to choose whether I'll go first or second. I think I want to be first in this matchup because there is a chance that Matt is on Owl or some other sort of strange aggressive strategy that I wouldn't be like really ready for, and I think it just gives me a chance to get my Gilder book down and be able to put a unit out in front of anything other than a really fast ally open. So I do go first here, and you'll see me meditate almost immediately. I'm very confident with the play of this deck and how many dice I need of a specific color, so we do meditate 2 natural dice. I actually, and I play the Gilder, or the Frostback Bear first, excuse me. The 2 meditations do cost me a Veil and a Sword of Virtue. That does hurt a little bit, but Golden Veil may be a non-bow card or not necessary in this matchup anyways. So I probably should have meditated 1 more Nature Die to be able to play. Actually, I have to meditate both Nature Dice still to be able to play the Hammer Knight, Root Armor, Gilder, and Frostback Bear. So I also needed to meditate into the Hammer Knight, but I didn't necessarily need to meditate the Fester right away because this isn't a deck that really is going to ping Fester in round 1. So if we're not going to ping Fester in round 1, I don't necessarily have to set up the Fester and telegraph it. So I can keep my dice down. I just go ahead and play a really aggressive line of Hammer Knight here, um, mainly because Matt's put down Three-Eyed Owl, and I want to get things out of my hand quickly. So there's a risk here with this play. One of the risks being that if he has Golden Veil to protect this owl from Enter the Fray, which is the Odette ability, then I am going to lose a card that I can't recur, which in this case most likely be the Fester, because I don't think I'm going to lose the Gilder if this doesn't work. Whereas if I'd have kept the Hammer Knight in hand and Matt does that to me, I could still get the Hammer Knight back and still play the Hammer Knight. I just would be giving up the Fester play and holding Fester into the next round. And that could be a problem also. So I think end of the day, this is still correct. We enter the fray here. Matt needed to decide if he was going to Golden Veil there, even though he's holding the dice for it. We do meditate 2 more natural dice. We lose a Hammer Knight and a Grave Knight. That's okay. We like allies in our discard. If we need them back, they're accessible this way for us. Matt does meditate a redirect to bring a sympathy die up. We're probably going to see another owl here. As my guess is that, and he meditates a strange copy to bring another power side up. He is threatening the meteor. Meteor looks a little bit less good when you've got a Hammer Knight that's got a root armor on it, and that's why I wanted to have potential outs for this. We're gonna play our Gilder book here and send it back. This gives us an opportunity here. I'm gonna go ahead and meditate now as well. I want to threaten Matt with the possibility of just natural pink Fester, even if that means I'm not summoning a Gilder. But he just puts the Three-Eyed Owl book back into play, and I think what I can do here is make a Gilder, which is correct, ping the Druid. I'm not in a time constraint in this sequence because if Matt makes Owl now, I get rid of the last card before the Owl does anything. So he does make the Owl. We're going to go ahead and Fester, get the last card out of our hand to kill his Druid. And yeah, Matt's going to be able to go ahead and have the go-ahead of make a Raven into this board. But we can pressure that Raven in a couple of different ways if we want to. One of those things is we just have a blocker for it if we keep the Gilder up. One of the things that we could have done here, like we should really set up a juicy meteor for Matt here, and that's maybe not the exact correct line of play, but I feel pretty good if we're in a place where he meteors. I take 1 on my Hammer Knight, and the last card he's going to play is Saria's Raven, because if really push comes to shove here, this Hammer Knight's not going anywhere, and if it attacks in the Raven and Matt wants to trade Raven into Hammer Knight, I think we're okay with that trade. Most likely Matt will take the 3 damage here, and I think the best course of attack is to go ahead and attack Saria directly and force the Raven to block. So if he chooses not to block, we both take 3. We're sort of equal on board, but I have, in my opinion, Frostbite Bear is a better book in my long-term plan. I do just attack the Raven, okay. This is just Matt giving Matt the option to do what he wants there. He's just going to attack my Odette directly, which I think is fine. Obviously it's perfectly legit to do that, and we're just 3 for 3, and I've got a full health Hammer Knight. He's got a Raven left. Unfortunately, Frostfang looks really bad into a Raven. Is our draw, our one ally draw here as a Frostfang is pretty rough. So we're going to be relying pretty heavily on Book and Frostbite. But I do think there is a world where the things we're going to try to do are play around his Neils, play around his Meteors as much as possible, and try to close the game in the mountain of health that is Saria, because she does have 20 health compared to Odette, who has 18. We're currently 3-3 right now. I popped the owl again. I mean, this is going to be a recurring theme, right? He is just essentially saying, I'm spending 1 dice to exhaust your Odette ability. I do meditate up a charm dice to threaten the Golden Veil just in case something like that happens. So we do see Shepherd to bring Essence Druid back. This Essence Druid is a little bit trickier for us because we don't really have a great solution other than to Gilder it and then Meteor the board. We didn't draw Sword of Virtue, didn't draw another Fester, so we don't want to get into that space. So I think this is actively bad to play the bear here, but what other options do you really have here? So if he plays Druid, which he does, he's going to meditate that three-eyed owl away. We need the full 3 damage Meteor here. So I think the most likely sort of scenario here is to play Frostbite. We can also play Gilder, and I'm just going to attack. I think what I want to do is see if Matt's going to guard, right? Like, because I do open up myself to taking 3 damage on the counter swing here, but Matt does just go ahead and let the Raven eat because, you want Raven to die. You want to be able to get that prey ability off with some consistency. Matt's down to 5 dice. He's going to make another owl, and that owl is going to be a problem end of the day. So to me, this is where we make Gilder. And see, this was a mistake in my mind as well. Like, we should have gone ahead and we knew the Meteor was going to kill the Shepherd, so we should have let Gilder ping the Druid. And then if he makes, we just play the Frostbite. I just think that end of the day, you just take the Gilder ping on the Druid. It puts pressure on him to do something with his Druid, which the Gilder is nice about stopping, or he has to summon a Raven to kill the Gilder. And that allows us to get him with the Meteor. We get to a place where in that sequencing, it's possible that Frostfang does get to be played. And that's what I'm kind of thinking about, is how to potentially get Frostfang late in the round for a surprise 3 damage, because we do sort of have a representation here of, okay, we can do, up to 6 damage this round, taking Matt to 9. With the Frostbite, we could go to 10. So Matt does meditate Enchanted Violinist, threatening potentially Neil still. Here's a 3-eyed owl. And I think we can get owled here. Like, Nature's Wrath feels pretty bad, so I just go ahead and Frostbite and go to the Saria directly, taking her up to 4. This is sort of just saying, okay, Matt, do your memory drain. I want you to do it. I don't care about this card in my hand for this owl right now. So I think we discard the Nature's Wrath. And I think that's okay, because outside of the doves, which we're not going to want to actively, do bad things with. See, one of the things I think we can do here with the Hammer Knight now is we can attack 3-eyed owl with Hammer Knight. And, if Matt doesn't guard it, like we put a point of damage on the Essence Druid, which enables the Meteor. I mean, there's a lot of lines here that are very efficient if we see them and do them correctly. This was played a couple of days ago, so I don't remember exactly what I do here. But looking at it post-match, this is something I'd probably do. And I actually just attack with the Gilder. I think, again, I think that's fine. Like, if he wants to exhaust the Essence Druid to kill the Gilder, like he knows that's a problem for him because I just represent, ping damage for this. Again, I'm just trying to open that Frostfang play up potentially. So, but I still think the right line is Hammer Knight into Three-Eyed Owl, ping the Druid, and then you get this insane Meteor here. Yeah, we're just gonna let Matt go here. I don't necessarily want to play the Frostfang unless it makes sense. Otherwise, I'm gonna plan to discard this Frostfang. So I don't want to waste 2 cards out of my deck if I don't actually intend to use it. So Matt does heal, remove 2 damage. It goes down to 2. So he's extending the game, which plays directly in. So now here's the Hammer Knight into Saria, and this is why this order sequencing is bad, because I just opened myself up to take 2 damage from the Essence Druid, and I didn't have to do it if I did this the other way around. So, I could have preserved 2 points of life if I would have attacked with Hammer Knight first, and then not taken the 2 from Saria there. So the interesting thing here is because he did what he did there. We'll see if he decides to play the owl, or the raven. If he plays the raven, then the Frostfang can't get played. If he doesn't play raven here, and he passes, so I'm actually okay with this now, right? Like, he's specifically holding, thinking I'm going to play something. He may have me on the Frostfang, and so he goes, okay, well, play your Frostfang, I'll play a Raven, eat your Frostfang, and then hit you for 3. But if I just pass, then I'm in a pretty good place too. And so that's what I do. Now, we get second Frostbite here. Now, we're really going to start turning on the burn damage in terms of pushing burn to our opponent's face. And, we're going to continue, so one of the things that we have to be cautious about here is the kneel, right? Like, if you've got him on kneel as a card, and that's a problem, the last thing you want to do is make a threat so that he gets 2 threats for 1 kneel. That's what he really wants to do. So I think, really honestly, we were in a place here where we should have attacked with the Hammer Knight, put 3 damage on Matt, and not gotten kneeled. Now, by playing the bear, we're saying, okay, cool, like, you're gonna kneel me, like, go ahead and kneel me. I still have, potential Grave Knight play. I still have potential Hammer Knight from the discard pile. Those kinds of things with this Shepherd. And we're back on a Ping Fester, so we have a removal if he plays another big threat. We do get the Hammer Knight back. I really like the Hammer Knight in this situation. I don't know, he may be on a Meteor. He does have the dice still to kneel Meteor me this round. That's a thing that I'd have to worry about. I'm sure we're going to see an owl here from Matt again, and we'll have to enter the fray just like we have done in the past. We just need to keep up pressure and threats on the board. Because it was round 3 and I got to go first, I risked, like, making a big board here and just getting kneeled in the next round. That's a real possible outcome. And what do we do then? So, these burn spells are only going to go so far. That's something that we don't want to just really, like, put ourselves in that position. So I'm gonna use this shepherd as an attacker, and the reason I want to do that is because again, I want to try to clear my battlefield. I want to try to make sure that all my threats on the board are meaningful threats, and the shepherd doesn't represent a meaningful threat; it represents a meaningful threat put back into my hand. And with Odette's battlefield size of 5, we're just going to continue to try to make sure that we get good threats on the board and we get value out of them before meteors and meals happen. So there's the three-eyed owl. Definitely going to just enter the fray. Like this is just the play pattern we're going to see all game here, and keep those owls from hitting my hand. So essentially, Matt's spending 1 die to exhaust my Phoenixborn every round, and I think that's just fine. There's very few places where I care about entering the fray the Raven in particular, and you know that's just a thing. So Matt is going to meditate the three-eyed owl, so we're going to see another Essence Druid play here. So he's going to commit 3 dice to this Essence Druid, bring back Owl. So the Owl is probably going to hit me for something, but what we're seeing is Matt's really not targeting my battlefield individually, right? And that's something that Sympathy can do, right? Sympathy's got crescendos and powerful things like that, but Matt's deck is not really built on that axis. So you just see Essence Druid into Three-Eyed Owl, so we're just going to ping fester this thing. I mean, this is what we have these cards in my deck for, and send it back to Matt. So again, just trying to keep his battlefield to an absolute minimum. Don't want him to be able to stand up, and these Orchid Doves are going to do that anyways. Like my Hammer Knight becomes kind of really ineffective, and we're at a place now in the game where I'm going to kind of have to start winning with the cards on board and the cards in hand. And I will say that I remember specifically still valuing the Hammer Knights, and then like realizing like, oh, the Grave Knight's probably better, because even if the Owl, like the Orchid Dove, blocks and I lose a card, I still get a point of damage in, so I'm just accelerating my win con better. So we're just gonna Frostbite again here, and we're just gonna continue to push this. This is a redirect, I think, into this Orchid Dove. No, he doesn't redirect. So, but the reaction timer tells me that he's probably got a redirect now, and so my next Phoenixborn attack is actually going to redirect into one of these doves, anyways. So there's the Owl again. Can't really do anything about this Owl, right? Like we can't play any cards. I don't really want to meditate into the Gilder. It feels actively bad. I discard the Grave Knight, which is where I think again it's just a pure mistake to do that. I think we should discard the Golden Veil because I don't think he's got targeted removal. And yeah, so we go into round 4 here. Matt's going to take off on this top of this. We do draw into the double Molten. The Blood Chains is particularly effective. Matt is going to get Owl advantage here. So, I think the Owls are going to start doing the work they need to do, and we just have to accept that potentially. I think I discard the Blood Chains. It's interesting because I think I could have held the Blood Chains potentially for, something else, but I think it's still probably correct. I don't think it's a super bad play to do that. I'm not going to attack with this Hammer Knight into this field because I don't want the Orchid Dove to eat a card. I'm down to 6 cards in deck, and we're still a long ways away from killing Saria. So there's the redirect into the Owl. So nullifying that bear. It's possible that my best attack was to natural ping the Dove, an attack with both, because then I would have at least gotten 2 or 3 damage in, 2 damage most likely. So, yeah, you know, I mean, like when you look at just damage in hand and damage on board, I represent 8 more damage, so I can get Saria to 12 this turn. We're still a couple of rounds probably from fatigue, so I am going to get there, but those heals are a thing. He's a Saria, forcing me to discard a meteor. So he's just eating through my deck passively through Orchid Dove, Saria, that plan. I suspect we'll see third Orchid Dove book at some point here, which will start to convert to damage when I'm out of cards in deck. That's what Saria does. So we're going to Frostbite. We're going to use the blank nature die. I think probably I shouldn't have used the nature die there. I probably should have used one of the divine dice, just because well, it would have allowed me to make a bear still and do the double molten gold this round if I wanted to. So, those are little things, but they can amount to big implications. And certainly, I didn't play a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. But we do see him do a revival pack into bringing his 2 shepherds and an enchanted violinist back to the bottom of the deck. That could come into play. I mean, he's 9 cards away from those, so we're still 2 rounds away from those cards impacting the game in some fashion, unless he has some draw that I'm not seeing outside of the Saria. And then it's he gets to a point where he gets 2 of them. Yeah. Okay. So we meditate the Hammer Knight away. We know the Hammer Knight's not doing anything in this board. I do have to meditate the sword away. I'm now deciding if I'm setting up a Grave Knight. It feels pretty bad to do that. But I also bluff the potential for a Ping Fester play. So he doesn't know if I have it or not. But it's interesting. There's just really incremental lines here. So he does meditate a kneel. That's 2 kneels in the bin. Meditates a shepherd. Threatens the meteor. That's huge here. So one of the things I think you can do now that the hollow is here is he again. I think meditating these ceremonials when I didn't have a real plan was bad, but the benefit was this strange opportunity for me to do a couple of different things here. I go ahead and attack with the bear because I am seeing this as a meteor plan. Like he's just stalling to try to not take damage, so I guess I let the hollow get eaten. The meteor is going to come out and do its thing, and I can't do anything, right? Like I can't stop that. I still have the opportunity post meteor in this dice spread to be able to recur a Grave Knight and get in for 4 damage. And I still have the Hammer Knight to get in for 3, so like that just represents I do use the ceremonial, and now I do realize the Grave Knight's a good card to bring back to hand. And it sort of is 1 life to prevent a fatigue here and keep my deck a little bit fuller for these Orchid Doves. So it was kind of the only real solution I had to getting some advantage. So he plays 3 out. You can see me immediately just going for the Enter Fray. We're just right back on Enter Fray. if he meteors now, like I'm in a really good place, right? I can't play the Grave Knight, but the Grave Knight in hand represents a significant enough threat that Matt can't feel comfortable with meteor. Like he can't go, oh, I should meteor right now, because if he does, he clears his board. Yes, he gets 3 cards off the top of my deck, but he opens himself up to a ton of damage. And what he doesn't know is that between Grave Knight and Hammer Knight, that would turn into 7, plus the Meteor would turn into 10. That takes him to 16 if he Meteors here. So he passes main action. And so to me, this is where I can meditate into a Molten Gold and go ahead and do the 3 damage with the Molten Gold. And then Matt's got to decide what he's doing, because he either commits to the meteor or commits to a 3-eyed owl. And I actually give up the Molten Gold. I meditate the Gilder. Yeah. I meditate the Golden Veil from hand that we've held all game, because we just know he's not directly interacting with our board like that. He passes again, just daring me. I'm going to pass. Like, there's just no reason to walk this Grave Knight into that Meteor. I'm going to hold the dice because those dice allow me to cast a Grave Knight. And we luckily roll into the last 2 Molten Golds here. I think the last card of my deck is a Hammer Knight, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to take advantage of this before we get kneeled and get in to take him up to 11. So it's 11-6 right now. I can go to 13 on the 2 Frostbites. Or excuse me, it's 13-6. I'm sorry. So I can go to 15 on the 2 Frostbites, go to 18 on the Molten Gold. 21 wins the game on the back of the Molten Gold. But the downside there is that and Magic Siphon is a problem because it's going to force meditations. So there is a play here where I can Blood Chains my bear and turn around and get another bear out if I need it as a backup plan. But it's kind of a stretch play. So I want to bluff Matt a little bit. I don't want him to think I have both Moltens here. I want him to think that potentially that last card is a Molten Gold. So this is a dangerous play if Matt has Hollow. And I probably should have Molten Golded once here, just because I had the dice already showing it wouldn't require a meditation. And if he plays Hollow, it's just going to force me to meditate. And there's the Hollow. So that's where it was a play mistake in my mind, because now I have 4 meditations I have to execute in order to get this done. I also should spend a Divine Dice here and not spend a Ceremonial. That's also a mistake. Not because I'm worried about Matt playing another threat that's a problem, but more so because I just think that you want to keep that Bloodchains line open. Like, that's really good to open up a Frostback Bear again. You want to be able to, I can Odette. So we do see Saria get my Hammer Knight. So he now knows I have the double Molten Gold, or at least he assumes I do. So, I think this is a small mistake from Matt here to attack with this Hollow, but I just let the bear eat the damage because why not? I'm suspecting that he's still holding that Meteor, and if I play a Grave Knight, he's going to slam that Meteor, so there's no reason to not expect that. I'm going to meditate a Frostbite away. I'm actually going to meditate the Fester away. Confirm that, and then I'm going to meditate I don't want to meditate all my frostbites because they represent a win con. But I don't want to meditate the bear away with both of my bears injured. So that was Matt's plan. So that takes us to 18. If Matt heals here, then he goes to 16. I have to, Molten Gold takes him to 19. I have to play Grave Knight immediately, take him to 17, and then respond to that with a Molten Gold. And it's possible he's on redirect. And I was worried about how redirect interacts with Molten Gold, and then I realized it doesn't at all. So yeah. So we're just going to fray here. This fray is actually really good because it doesn't like it doesn't actually tell Matt what I have. He thinks maybe I'm still not at the close point. And again, this is a mistake because if he does have redirect, that it doesn't stop the Molten Gold. So I just had the win one action before this, but I didn't know it, right? Like didn't know it, didn't want to make a drastic mistake where I was going to get blown out and not have a way to finish. You see me looking at redirect to make sure here, and we do see him go ahead and meditate. That tells me that he wants to meteor and then heal, and that's a thing, right? And then the doves start to mount up after that again. So, I realized that I had the win last turn and didn't take it, but here's my flourish to win here is like I'm just gonna play it and we're gonna see what happens. And yeah, but I mean Matt had an opportunity to heal that turn and didn't take it because he thought I didn't have the win in hand. So he's still on a plan to continue the game. Maybe that's pure luck that it got there. Maybe that's something else, but we do get there on the back of 3 Molten Golds and some Frostbites. So yeah, so I mean, obviously Matt is a fantastic competitor. I was a super fun match to play. It used every card in my deck, sans 2, that are still on my spell board. So very very tight game. The health pools don't really indicate that, but that's what happens when you play mill. The mill isn't actually doing damage to you until you get much later in the game. Um, so Carl says, yeah, that was cool to give Matt hope there. Yeah. So anyways, I do appreciate everybody who checks out the channel. Obviously, if you like this video, nothing tells me that you like it better than just to give me a thumbs up on the video, but nothing says you like our content more than to subscribe to the channel. So, feel free to subscribe if that's your thing. If not, no sweat. And we will be back with more Ashcon coverage. I'll have more Ashcon coverage for my Odette list, as well as videos like this talking about my plays through the tournament. And then you can keep an eye on the Twitch channel for all the official coverage, as well as YouTube for anything you may have missed that's on demand. So thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Have a nice day.